Welcome to Art with Mrs. Cap, where we are going on a journey through the world of art and the many histories and cultures that influence it. Whether you're a kid or a kid at heart, wanting to learn more about the art world, this is the podcast for you. So join us as we journey through art with Mrs. Cap. Welcome to today's episode. So we are going to be talking about a work of art by Wassily Kandinsky. He is probably one of the most famous expressionist artists, especially from the German expressionism art movement. So a little bit of background about his work and the movement that he was part of. It's known as German expressionism, and it covered a time period from about the 1910s to the 1930s. There were two groups in this art movement of German expressionism, and he was the founder and leader of one of those groups that was known as Der Blue Reiter. I don't speak German, so hopefully I got that right, but it stands for the Blue Rider. And so that group was based in Munich, Germany. And like I said before, it was one of two of the main groups of German expressionism. It was led by Kandinsky and Franz Marc. So those are your forefront leaders of this group within German expressionism. Moving into expressionism and why it ended when it did, although there's still expressionist artists today, but as Nazis rose to power in Germany, if you look at that time period, that's in that, period where the Nazis are starting to become a group and Hitler is starting to kind of rise into prominence in his ideas and all this kind of stuff. And so when Hitler rises to power, he has artwork done during the Weimar Republic, which is that period between the end of World War I and then the birth of the Nazi Party and so forth. He has this art labeled as degenerate, and he sees it as anti-German and not patriotic and disgusting and just all these things, so much so that in 1937, he actually has an art exhibit that was put on by the Nazis called the Degenerate Art Exhibit. And the purpose of it was to reinforce this idea of what proper art of the Third Reich was, and to, in the words of Hitler, unleash the destructive tornado against modern art. So his whole purpose was to destroy modern art, because he felt like this is what happens when, we aren't who we're supposed to be, and we allow these ideals to come in. It taints, what pure Nazism should be and all this kind of stuff. Kandinsky taught at a school that was really a big part of this art movement and the architecture world and in the modern world, called the Bauhaus. And Kandinsky was a instructor at the Bauhaus, along with people like Ludwig Mies van der Rohe and so many others that we know when we think of like architecture and modern art. But he taught there from 1922 until 1933, when the Nazis closed the Bauhaus, and then he fled to France for freedom. So anyway, Kandinsky lived out the rest of his life in France and continued to work there. He actually passed away before World War II ended. So he passed away at 77 years old in 1944, living and working in France for the remaining part of his career. So the work that we're looking at today is called Komposition 5. It's part of a 10-part series that he did that kind of birthed the whole German Expressionism movement. So this was done in 1911. It is pretty early in his development as an artist. And so he would, continue to work in this style and so forth and evolve in this style. It was kind of rejected by a lot of artists during that time, which most modern art is rejected by contemporaries of the time who are still traditional and caught up with the way they think art should be. And so it usually goes against the grain. And he was another person that went against the grain of what was acceptable. And so typically with abstract art, you can look at it and you can kind of figure out what is being represented in it. But Kandinsky really breaks away from that a lot in this. And you don't really figure out what's there. A lot of people see different things in this. So he's really taking abstraction to the extreme. He's really abstracting things so much so that you really don't know what's there. Some people see angels, some people see landscapes, some people see people in there, and some people see animals. All kinds of things. Everybody sees something different. So when you look at this, there is no right answer or wrong answer about what is in there, at least from what we know. If you wanted to see this today, it is at the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. So that concludes our discussion on Komposition 5 by Kandinsky today, as well as a brief discussion on German Expressionism. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to getting to talk with you again in the future. Bye. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Be sure to subscribe and check out more episodes as we travel through the world of art and art history to have a better understanding of our own ties to the culture and history of humanity.